Emma Davis hurried down the empty corridor of Westlake University's Humanities building, her heels clicking against the polished floor. The echo bounced off the walls, emphasizing just how deserted the place had become at 7:30 on a Friday evening. Most professors had cleared out hours ago, eager to start their weekends, but not Emma. Her dedication to grading papers had once again trapped her in a time warp, where minutes stretched into hours without notice. "Almost done," she muttered to herself, juggling her leather messenger bag, a stack of ungraded essays, and a half-empty cup of lukewarm coffee. She needed to grab the anthology she'd left in Conference Room B after her department meeting. Then she could finally head home to her apartment, where a glass of wine, take-out Thai food, and the newest episode of her favorite historical drama awaited. The university had recently installed a new automated system that locked all rooms at 8 o'clock sharp, a security measure implemented after several projectors had mysteriously disappeared last semester. Emma glanced at her watch. 25 minutes should be plenty of time to retrieve her book and make it to the parking garage. As she approached Conference Room B, she noticed the door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the hallway. Strange. The room should have been vacant. Everyone else had left hours ago. Emma hesitated, then pushed the door open with her elbow, careful not to spill what remained of her coffee. Inside, a man stood with his back to her, gazing out the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the campus quad. He wore an expensive-looking suit that seemed more appropriate for Wall Street than a public university. He was talking on his phone, his voice quiet but authoritative. "I don't care what the board thinks. The numbers don't justify that kind of investment. We need to pivot or we'll be throwing good money after bad." He paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. "Look, I'm still at this university meeting. Let's discuss this tomorrow." Emma cleared her throat. "Excuse me?" The man turned, clearly startled. He was younger than Emma had expected, mid-30s perhaps, with dark hair and sharp features that softened slightly when he saw her. His eyes were a striking blue, made more intense by the faint shadows beneath them. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone before ending the call. He slipped the device into his pocket. "Sorry, I didn't realize anyone else was still here." "I just came to get my book," Emma explained, gesturing to the anthology that sat on the conference table. "I didn't mean to interrupt your call." "You didn't," he replied, offering a tired smile. "It was a conversation I was looking for an excuse to end anyway." He extended his hand. "Liam Carter." Emma shifted her coffee cup to balance precariously atop her stack of papers and shook his hand. "Emma Davis. I'm a professor in the English department." "Ah, so this is your natural habitat," Liam said, glancing around the room. "I'm just a visitor. The business school invited me to speak to their entrepreneurship seminar, and Dean Whitman suggested we meet here afterward to discuss some potential funding opportunities." Recognition dawned on Emma. Liam Carter, the tech entrepreneur who'd made headlines when he sold his software company for nearly $1 billion. His new venture, Carter Innovations, was making waves in artificial intelligence research. The university had been courting him for donations for months. "Of course," Emma said. "I've heard about your work. Your name has been mentioned in quite a few faculty meetings lately." Liam grimaced. "All good things, I hope." "Well, the science and engineering departments are certainly excited about your visit." "And the humanities?" Emma hesitated. The truth was that many in her department viewed wealthy tech entrepreneurs with suspicion, as people who built empires on algorithms and data while neglecting the human stories and ethical questions that should guide such innovation. "Let's just say we're curious about how your interest in AI intersects with concerns about its impact on literature, creativity, and critical thinking," she replied diplomatically. Liam chuckled, a warm sound that seemed to fill the room. "In other words, you're worried I'm funding technology that will make your job obsolete. Are you?" "No one can make literature professors obsolete, Dr. Davis." Who else would force college students to read Beowulf in Old English? Emma couldn't help but smile. It's just professor, not doctor. And for your information, I specialize in 19th century American literature, not medieval texts. 19th century, Liam repeated. Thoreau, Whitman, Dickinson. Among others, yes. Emma was surprised he could name any authors from that period. Most of her students struggled to identify anyone beyond Edgar Allan Poe. My mother was an English teacher, he explained, seeming to read her thoughts. She made sure I had a decent foundation in the classics before I disappeared into the world of coding and venture capital. A chime from the automated system interrupted them, followed by a monotone announcement. Attention! The building will be securing all rooms in 15 minutes. Please ensure all personal belongings are removed before departure. Emma glanced at her watch. I should get going. She stepped forward to retrieve her anthology from the table, but in her haste, she knocked over her coffee cup. The remaining liquid splashed across the table, creating a brown puddle that quickly spread toward Liam's expensive leather briefcase. Oh no! Emma dropped her stack of papers and lunged to rescue the briefcase, managing to grab it just as the coffee reached its previous location. Unfortunately, in the process, she knocked over a water pitcher, sending its contents flowing in the opposite direction. I'm so sorry, she gasped, mortified. Liam moved quickly, grabbing napkins from a side table and tossing half to Emma. No harm done, he assured her, though his crisp white shirt cuff was now sporting a coffee stain. I've caused worse disasters in board meetings. They worked together to mop up the mess, their hands occasionally brushing against each other. Emma felt her cheeks warm at each accidental contact, acutely aware of how clumsy she must seem to this polished businessman. So, Liam said, seemingly eager to ease her embarrassment, 19th century literature. Any favorites you'd recommend to someone looking to expand their reading beyond what they were assigned in high school? Emma lit up at the question, her professional passion momentarily overriding her awkwardness. Well, everyone knows Moby Dick and the Scarlet Letter, but I'd recommend something like Kate Chopin's The Awakening or Charles Chesnutt's short stories. They were ahead of their time in addressing issues of identity and societal constraints. I'll have to look those up, Liam replied, sounding genuinely interested. The final warning chime sounded. Attention! The building will be securing all rooms in 5 minutes. Please exit immediately. We should go, Emma said, gathering her things. She picked up her anthology, now slightly damp at one corner, and stuffed it into her bag. Liam nodded, collecting his briefcase. They walked to the door together, but when Liam turned the handle, nothing happened. That's strange, he muttered, trying again. The door remained firmly shut. Emma felt a flutter of panic. Let me try. She set down her things and gripped the handle, jiggling it with increasing force. It's stuck. Is there another exit? No, just this one door. Emma pointed to the phone on the wall. We can call campus security. Liam strode over and picked up the receiver, but after holding it to his ear for a moment, he frowned. No dial tone. What? That can't be right. Emma tried the door again, then knocked loudly, hoping someone might be passing by in the hallway. The corridor outside remained silent. The final chime sounded, followed by the automated voice. Securing all rooms now. Have a pleasant evening. They heard a distinct click as the electronic lock engaged, sealing them inside. Perfect, Emma sighed, leaning against the wall. Just perfect. Liam pulled out his cell phone. No problem, I'll call. He stopped, staring at his screen. No signal. That's odd. Emma checked her own phone. I don't have one either. This building is notorious for dead zones, especially on the upper floors. She gestured to the windows. And those are sealed shut. Some energy efficiency measure the university implemented last year. Liam paced the length of the conference room, checking his phone periodically, as if a signal might magically appear. So, we're locked in until, what, tomorrow morning? The security guard does rounds every couple of hours. He should find us eventually. Eventually, Liam repeated, loosening his tie with a resigned sigh. Well, Professor Davis, it looks like you're stuck with a tech entrepreneur for the evening. Your humanities colleagues would be horrified. Despite her frustration at the situation, Emma couldn't help but laugh. I suppose there are worse people to be trapped with. At least you know who Walt Whitman is, and you didn't spill coffee directly on my laptop, so I'd say we're even. Liam set his briefcase on the table and took a seat. Since we're apparently having an extended meeting, why don't you tell me why the humanities departments are so skeptical of tech funding? I'm genuinely curious. Emma hesitated, then sat across from him. If they were going to be stuck here for hours, they might as well have an honest conversation. It's not just about funding, she explained. Many of us are concerned about the way technology is reshaping education and critical thinking. We see students who can't focus on a novel because they're conditioned for constant digital stimulation. We watch them use AI to generate essays rather than developing their own analytical skills. But isn't that just evolution? Tools change, methods adapt. Some tools enhance human capability. Others replace it entirely or atrophy skills we've valued for centuries. Liam leaned forward, his eyes alight with interest. So what's the alternative? Ban the technology? That's never worked in human history. No, but we can be intentional about how we integrate it. We can design tech that enhances deep thinking rather than undermines it. Emma surprised herself with her passion. She typically avoided these debates with people outside academia, finding them exhausting and circular. That's actually why I'm here, Liam said. My foundation is exploring ways to bridge technology and humanities. Most tech leaders come from STEM backgrounds. We need perspectives from people like you. People who spill coffee and get locked in conference rooms? Liam grinned. People who understand the human stories behind the data points. The conversation flowed more easily after that. They debated the merits of various approaches to education, the ethical implications of AI development, and even their favorite books from different eras. Emma found herself surprised by Liam's thoughtfulness and willingness to consider perspectives outside his industry bubble. Hours passed without notice. They raided the mini-fridge in the corner, finding bottles of water and a plate of leftover sandwiches from the day's meeting. Liam arranged them on napkins, creating an impromptu picnic on the conference table. Not exactly five-star dining, he joked, handing Emma a slightly stale turkey sandwich. Better than nothing, she replied, suddenly aware of how hungry she was. Though I was looking forward to my Thai takeout. What's your go-to order? Pad CU with extra vegetables, spice level 4 out of 5. Liam raised an eyebrow. Impressive heat tolerance. I grew up with a mother who believed the spicier the food, the stronger the character, Emma explained. What about you? What does a tech millionaire eat when he's not trapped in university conference rooms? Honestly, protein bars and coffee most days. My schedule doesn't allow for many proper meals. That sounds horrible. It is, he admitted with a laugh. My assistant is constantly nagging me to eat real food. She says I'm one missed meal away from becoming a cautionary tale about burnout. Smart assistant. Too smart sometimes. Liam checked his watch. It's almost 11. Shouldn't that security guard have come by now? Emma frowned. You're right. They usually do rounds at 10. She walked to the door and knocked loudly, then called out, Hello? Anyone out there? No response came. Maybe he's on the other side of the building, Liam suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. Or maybe it's Roger's night off. He sometimes switches with the weekend guard. Emma sighed. We might actually be stuck here until morning. Well, there are worse places to spend a night. Liam gestured to the comfortable conference chairs. And worse company. Emma felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. She hadn't spent this much uninterrupted time talking to someone in months, maybe years. Her life had fallen into a predictable rhythm of lectures, office hours, research, and solitary evenings. Being trapped here with Liam Carter felt strangely like being shaken awake. So, she said, returning to her seat, tell me about this foundation of yours. What exactly are you hoping to accomplish? Date? As Liam outlined his vision, a bridge between technological innovation and humanistic values, Emma found herself drawn in not just by his ideas, but by his passion. His eyes lit up when he talked about creating tools that would enhance human creativity rather than replace it, and programs that would make quality education accessible to communities typically left behind by tech advances. "The problem with most tech leaders," he said, "is that we get so caught up in what we can build that we don't stop to consider what we should build, or how our innovations might reshape society in ways we never intended. And you think humanities professors have the answers? Not the answers, but certainly questions worth considering," Liam smiled. "Like the ones you've been asking me for the past 3 hours. Emma glanced at the clock on the wall, surprised to see it was now past midnight. "I can't believe we've been talking this long." "Time flies when you're debating the future of human cognition," Liam quipped. He stretched in his chair, his suit jacket long discarded, shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms. "I have a confession to make." "What's that?" "I've been avoiding most of these university meetings because I assumed they'd be painful exercises in academic posturing. But this conversation has been more stimulating than any board meeting I've had in years. Even with the coffee spill and imprisonment, especially with those." Liam's expression grew more serious. "Most people I meet either want something from me or are intimidated by my company's success. They don't challenge me like you have tonight." Emma wasn't sure how to respond. The intensity of his gaze made her heart beat a little faster. Well, being stuck in a room with someone tends to strip away the usual social filters. "True." Liam yawned and checked his watch again. "We should probably try to get some sleep. Those chairs by the window recline a bit." They arranged the conference chairs into makeshift beds, using Liam's suit jacket and Emma's cardigan as improvised pillows. The room's automatic lighting had dimmed to night mode, casting everything in a soft blue glow. "Good night, Professor Davis," Liam said from his chair a few feet away. "Good night, Mr. Carter," Emma replied, trying to find a comfortable position. As she drifted towards sleep, Emma realized this bizarre situation, being accidentally locked in with a handsome tech millionaire, was exactly the kind of meet-cute that happened in the romantic comedies she occasionally indulged in but never expected to experience herself. The thought made her smile in the darkness. The harsh fluorescent light snapped on at 6 in the morning, startling Emma awake. She blinked, momentarily confused by her surroundings, then remembered the previous night's predicament. Her neck ached from the awkward sleeping position, and her mouth felt dry. Liam was already awake, his hair slightly rumpled, making him look younger and less polished than he had the night before. He offered Emma a bottle of water from the mini-fridge. "Morning," he said. "I heard voices in the hallway. Someone should be here soon." As if on cue, they heard the sound of a key card at the door, followed by the click of the lock disengaging. The door swung open to reveal a puzzled security guard. "Professor Davis?" The guard, Hector, not Roger, looked from Emma to Liam and back again. "What are you doing here?" "We got locked in last night," Emma explained, gathering her belongings and trying to smooth her wrinkled clothes. "The door jammed, and then the automatic system engaged." Hector frowned. "That shouldn't happen. There's an override mechanism that prevents the locks from engaging if motion is detected in the room." "Well, it failed," Liam said, putting on his jacket. "Someone should look into that." The guard nodded, clearly unsure what to make of finding a professor and a well-dressed stranger who had apparently spent the night in a conference room. Emma and Liam walked out together, the early morning sunlight streaming through the building's eastern windows. The campus was quiet, with only a few dedicated joggers and early risers crossing the quad. "Well," Emma said, suddenly feeling awkward now that their confinement was over, "that was certainly an unexpected evening." "It was," Liam agreed. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you have classes today?" "No, it's Saturday." "Right." He seemed uncharacteristically uncertain. "I was thinking maybe we could continue our conversation sometime, over a proper meal instead of stale sandwiches." Emma felt a flutter of surprise. "You want to have dinner with me?" "I do. Or lunch, or coffee, preferably in a spill-proof container." His smile was warm, genuine. Under normal circumstances, Emma might have hesitated. Her last relationship had ended badly, leaving her wary of new connections. But there was something about Liam, his intellect, his unexpected depth. The way he'd made a night trapped in a conference room feel like an adventure rather than an ordeal. "I'd like that," she found herself saying. Liam's smile widened. "Great. How's tomorrow evening? I'm in town until Monday." "Tomorrow works." "Perfect." He pulled out his phone, which now had signal, and they exchanged numbers. "I should probably go get changed before my next meeting," he said, gesturing to his rumpled suit. "And I should head home to shower and feed my cat," Emma replied. They walked together to the parking lot, where Liam's driver waited beside a sleek black car. Before getting in, he turned to Emma one last time. "You know, Professor Davis, I came to this university looking for investment opportunities. I didn't expect to find something much more valuable." "And what's that?" Emma asked, a smile playing at her lips. "A private tutor in 19th century literature, and perhaps a few other subjects." He winked, then ducked into the car. As Emma watched the vehicle pull away, she couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. 24 hours ago, she'd been planning a quiet weekend of grading papers and watching historical dramas. Now she had a dinner date with a billionaire who wanted literary recommendations. Life, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The day after their unexpected confinement, Emma found herself sitting across from Liam Carter at Laurel, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. The establishment occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, offering panoramic views of the skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. "I hope this place is all right," Liam said as a waiter poured water into crystal glasses. "I didn't know if you had dietary preferences." Emma smiled, taking in the understated elegance around them. "It's beautiful," she admitted, "though a bit more upscale than my usual Sunday night takeout in front of student papers." Speaking of which, Liam reached into his briefcase and pulled out her anthology, the one she'd forgotten in the conference room after their ordeal. "I believe this belongs to you. You kept it?" Emma accepted the book, noticing a bookmark inserted between pages. "And you've been reading it?" "I was curious about Kate Chopin after your recommendation." His eyes held a warmth that made Emma's pulse quicken. "The awakening is quite provocative for its time, isn't it?" Brahim, their conversation flowed easily through appetizers and main courses, jumping from literature to technology to personal stories. Emma learned that beneath Liam's polished exterior lay a complex man with genuine intellectual curiosity. As dessert arrived, however, Liam's expression turned more serious. "Emma, I have a proposition for you." She raised an eyebrow. "A proposition?" "A professional one," he clarified quickly. "My life has become increasingly narrow, all business meetings and tech conferences. I'm surrounded by people who think exactly like me, which is terrible for innovation. And how do I fit into this?" Liam leaned forward. "I'd like to hire you as a consultant. One evening a week, you introduce me to ideas, authors, and perspectives outside my usual sphere. Think of it as private tutoring in intellectual diversity." Emma set down her fork. "You want me to be your humanities coach?" "Exactly. You'd be compensated generously, of course." Emma hesitated. The offer was unusual, but also intriguing. "Why me, specifically?" "There are plenty of professors more distinguished in their fields. Because you called me out on my assumptions without being condescending. Because you're passionate about ideas, not just academic advancement. And frankly, because I enjoyed being locked in a room with you for 12 hours, which says something about compatibility." Emma couldn't help but laugh. "When you put it that way." "Just consider it," Liam said. "Our first session could be this week before I return to San Francisco." The practical side of Emma, the one facing student loans and a leaking apartment ceiling, recognized the financial opportunity. The intellectual side was genuinely curious about what this arrangement might entail. "All right," she said finally, "but I have conditions." "Name them." "We meet on neutral ground. Not your hotel or my apartment. I choose the readings and topics, and if at any point this feels uncomfortable or unproductive for either of us, we end it immediately." Liam extended his hand across the table. "Deal, Professor." "Deal." As Emma shook his hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just agreed to something that would change her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. "One more thing," she added with a smile. "I don't do grades, Mr. Carter." "Fair enough," he replied, eyes twinkling. "But I do hope you'll let me know if I'm failing." The waiter arrived with the check, which Liam handled without glancing at the amount. As they left the restaurant together, stepping into the cool evening air, Emma wondered if she was being impulsive. This arrangement blurred professional and personal boundaries in ways that made her slightly uneasy. Yet something about Liam Carter's genuine interest in her world, combined with the undeniable chemistry between them, made her willing to take the risk. After years of predictable routine, perhaps a little uncertainty was exactly what she needed. The Metropolitan Museum of Art wasn't Emma's typical classroom, but as she watched Liam Carter study a Hudson River School landscape, she decided it might be her favorite teaching venue yet. 3 weeks into their unusual arrangement, they had established a routine that hardly felt like work at all. Thomas Cole believed nature revealed divine truth, Emma explained, as Liam examined the painting's dramatic light and shadow. These landscapes weren't just pretty pictures. They were moral statements about America's relationship with wilderness. Liam nodded, his focus intense. They were creating a national identity through art. Exactly. Just as your tech platforms create cultural narratives today, this was their pattern now. Emma would choose cultural experiences, art exhibitions, historical sites, literary readings, and use them to draw connections to contemporary issues. For tonight's lesson, she'd flown to New York, where Liam was attending a conference, expenses covered by his generous consulting fee. "You're getting good at this," Emma remarked as they moved to the next gallery, making connections between past and present. "I have an excellent teacher." Liam's smile contained something beyond professional appreciation, a warmth that had been growing with each meeting. They'd developed a comfortable rhythm, with intellectual discussions flowing into personal revelations and back again. Emma had learned about Liam's humble beginnings, the son of a high school English teacher and a mechanic who had taught himself coding as a teenager. He'd shared stories of his early failures, his fears of imposter syndrome despite his success, and his growing disillusionment with Silicon Valley's insularity. In return, Emma had opened up about her passion for teaching, her struggles for tenure in a department that undervalued her research interests, and her family's disappointment that she hadn't pursued a more lucrative career. "Speaking of connections," Liam said as they paused before a painting of a woman reading by lamplight, "my board meeting tomorrow is about creating an educational platform. I'd like your perspective. I'm hardly qualified to advise on tech development. That's precisely why I need you there. Everyone else thinks like an engineer or investor." Emma hesitated. "Liam, I'm not sure that's within our arrangement. Consider it an extension of our lessons. I'll double your fee." His expression grew more serious. "Emma, I value your insights. Not just about art and literature, but about how real people experience technology." There was sincerity in his voice that made it difficult to refuse. "All right," she conceded, "but I'll speak my mind, even if it's not what your board wants to hear." I wouldn't expect anything less. After the museum closed, they found themselves at a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, continuing their conversation over pasta and wine. The restaurant was cozy, with checkered tablecloths and candles casting a warm glow over the intimate space. "Do you realize," Emma said, twirling linguine on her fork, "this is our 5th dinner together, but technically the first that's not part of our professional arrangement?" Liam paused with his glass halfway to his lips. "Are you keeping count, Professor Davis?" Emma felt her cheeks warm. Just an observation. An interesting one. Liam set down his glass. Because I've been thinking about our arrangement quite a bit lately. Oh, Emma tried to sound casual, despite her suddenly racing heart. It's become the highlight of my month. I look forward to your emails about our next lesson more than board reports on my company's valuation. Well, I do try to make cultural education entertaining. It's not just the content, Emma. Liam reached across the table, his fingers lightly touching hers. It's the company. The moment hung between them, charged with possibility. Emma knew she should maintain professional distance. He was essentially her client. Yet she couldn't deny the connection that had been building, a spark that had ignited that first night in the locked conference room and had been steadily growing ever since. Before she could respond, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at it reluctantly. I'm sorry, it's my assistant. There's an issue with tomorrow's presentation. Emma withdrew her hand. You should take it. I understand. Deli. As Liam stepped outside to take the call, Emma tried to collect her thoughts. This wasn't part of the plan. She'd agreed to be his cultural consultant, not to develop feelings for him. Yet here she was, a literature professor falling into the plot of a romance novel she would have critiqued for its predictability. When Liam returned, his expression was apologetic. I hate to cut this short, but I need to handle this situation. Can I have my driver take you back to your hotel? Of course. Emma smiled to hide her disappointment. Duty calls. Outside the restaurant, as they waited for his car, Liam turned to her. About tomorrow's meeting, 9 a.m. at Carter Innovations' New York office. My assistant will email you the details. I'll be there. And Emma. He hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her cheek softly. Thank you, not just for tomorrow, but for these past weeks. You've changed how I see things. The gesture was brief, but left Emma feeling off balance. As Liam's car arrived and he held the door for her, she couldn't help wondering if their professional arrangement was evolving into something neither of them had anticipated, and whether that was a risk worth taking. The next morning, Emma navigated the sleek, modernist headquarters of Carter Innovations, feeling distinctly out of place in her academic-appropriate blazer and skirt. Employees in casual tech attire gave her curious glances as an assistant escorted her to the conference room. Liam greeted her warmly, introducing her to his executive team, a collection of polished business types and rumpled tech geniuses who seemed puzzled by her presence. Professor Davis is consulting on our educational platform, Liam explained. She brings expertise in how people actually learn, not just how we think they should learn. The meeting began with presentations about market potential and technological capabilities. Emma listened carefully, taking notes and observing the dynamics. When Liam finally invited her input, all eyes turned to her expectantly. Your platform has impressive features, she began diplomatically, but it misses something fundamental about education. Which is? Asked the chief technology officer, a man named Dario, who had barely hidden his skepticism about her presence. Learning is inherently social and emotional, not just cognitive. Your system tracks comprehension, but ignores engagement and meaning-making. Our metrics, Dario began, but Emma continued. Think about the most important things you've learned in life. Did they come from an algorithm serving you content, or from experiences with mentors and peers who challenged you? The room fell silent. Emma felt Liam watching her with an expression of admiration that gave her courage to continue. If you want to revolutionize education, don't just build another content delivery system. Create spaces for connection, disagreement, and collaborative discovery. Digitally enhanced, but fundamentally human. By the end of her impromptu speech, even Dario was nodding thoughtfully. The meeting shifted, with team members brainstorming ways to incorporate her insights into their design. Afterward, Liam pulled her aside. That was brilliant. You've just redirected a $50 million project. I just said what any humanities professor would say, which is exactly why I needed you there. His hand rested lightly on her arm. The team is going for lunch to continue discussing. Will you join us? Emma hesitated, suddenly aware of the watching eyes of Liam's employees. Some wore expressions of curiosity, others of speculation. Actually, I should prepare for my flight back. Class is tomorrow. Disappointment flickered across Liam's face. Of course. He lowered his voice. Emma, about last night. It's fine, she interrupted. We were having a nice evening, nothing to analyze. Liam studied her face. Is that how you see it? Just a nice evening between colleagues. Emma felt trapped between honesty and self-preservation. Before she could answer, Liam's assistant appeared, reminding him about the waiting executive team. We'll continue this conversation, Liam promised, squeezing her hand briefly before joining his colleagues. On the flight back to her campus, Emma found herself unable to focus on the papers she'd brought to grade. Her mind kept returning to the way Liam had looked at her across the conference table, not as a consultant or even as a friend, but as someone who mattered in a different way entirely. When her phone chimed with a message from him, her heart jumped embarrassingly. The board unanimously approved your approach to the platform. They want to offer you a permanent consulting position. Say yes, and I'll have legal draft an agreement. More importantly, I'd like to see you again, outside our professional arrangement. Your thoughts? Emma stared at the message, understanding that her answer would significantly alter the course of both their lives. After several minutes of contemplation, she typed her reply. A permanent position sounds intriguing. As for the other matter, perhaps we should discuss it in person. My next available evening is Friday. His response came immediately. Friday it is. I'll fly to you this time. Emma put away her phone, a mixture of excitement and apprehension settling in her stomach. Their carefully constructed boundaries were dissolving, and she wasn't entirely sure whether to rebuild them or let them fall away completely. Friday arrived with unseasonable rain that pounded against Emma's office window. The weather matched her turbulent mood as she stared at the stack of ungraded papers, unable to focus on anything except her impending dinner with Liam. Their relationship had reached a critical juncture, one that required decisions she wasn't sure she was prepared to make. A knock at her door provided a welcome distraction. "Come in," she called, expecting a student with last-minute questions before the weekend. Instead, Department Chair Margaret Wilson entered, her perpetually concerned expression more pronounced than usual. At 62, Margaret had navigated the politics of academia for decades and wore her battle scars with pride, mostly in the form of blunt opinions and a wardrobe of aggressively sensible shoes. "Emma, do you have a moment?" Without waiting for an answer, Margaret settled into the chair across from Emma's desk and placed a printout between them. "Care to explain this?" Emma glanced down at what appeared to be an article from the university's online newspaper. The headline made her stomach drop. "Tech Billionaire's Special Lessons," with Westlake professor raise eyebrows. "What is this?" Emma picked up the paper, skimming the article with growing horror. It described her mysterious consulting arrangement with Liam in terms that heavily implied impropriety, complete with a grainy photo of them entering the Metropolitan Museum together. "That's what I'd like to know," Margaret replied, folding her arms. "The provost called me this morning asking why a member of my faculty is apparently providing private lessons to Liam Carter without university approval." "It's not what it sounds like," Emma protested. "He hired me as a cultural consultant. We discuss literature, art, historical contexts. It's completely professional." "Is that why you're flying to New York on weekends?" "For completely professional consultations in five-star hotels." Emma felt her cheeks burn. "I stayed in a hotel, alone. He was there for a conference." Margaret sighed, her expression softening slightly. "Emma, I'm not here to judge your personal life, but you know how academia works. Perception matters, especially for untenured faculty. So I'm not allowed to have private consulting work. Many professors do. With proper disclosure and university approval, yes. The issue here is the appearance of impropriety and potential conflict of interest, especially given that Mr. Carter is currently in discussions to fund a new technology center on campus. Emma hadn't known about the technology center. The revelation that Liam was negotiating with the university while paying her for lessons cast their arrangement in a more complicated light. "I didn't know about that," she admitted, "which is precisely why we have disclosure requirements." Margaret handed her another form. "Fill this out detailing your consulting arrangement, including compensation. The Ethics Committee will review it, and until then I'd strongly advise you to put this relationship, professional or otherwise, on pause." After Margaret left, Emma sat motionless, the form untouched on her desk. The implications were clear. Her career could be jeopardized by her connection to Liam. Yet the thought of ending their arrangement, especially now when it seemed to be evolving into something more, left her with an unexpected sense of loss. Her phone buzzed with a text from Liam. "Just landed. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Address for the restaurant?" Emma stared at the message, unsure how to respond. She needed to tell him about the article, about the potential complications for her career, but not over text, and not in a public restaurant where they might be recognized. "Change of plans," she typed. "Can we meet at my place instead? We need to talk privately. I'll send the address." His response came quickly. "Everything okay?" "I'll explain when you get here," she replied, then added her address. Emma spent the next 2 hours in a flurry of nervous energy, tidying her modest apartment. It wasn't that she was embarrassed by her living situation, a cozy one-bedroom with bookshelves lining nearly every wall, but the contrast between her world and Liam's luxury couldn't be more stark. Her home reflected the reality of a professor's salary, comfortable but modest, with furniture chosen more for durability than style. At precisely 7 o'clock, her doorbell rang. Emma took a deep breath, smoothed her sweater, and opened the door to find Liam standing there in a casual button-down and jeans, holding a bottle of wine and looking slightly damp from the rain. "I know you said we needed to talk privately," he began with a tentative smile, "but I hope we can still have dinner. I brought Italian takeout from that place you mentioned liking." He lifted a bag that smelled deliciously of garlic and basil, and despite her anxiety, Emma felt a rush of warmth at the gesture. He had remembered her offhand comment about a local restaurant she loved. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. "And yes, dinner would be nice. We can talk while we eat." Liam's eyes traveled around her apartment with genuine interest rather than judgment. "This is exactly how I imagined your place," he commented, taking in the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "A literary sanctuary. It's small, but it works for me and Milton." Emma nodded toward her grey tabby cat, who was regarding Liam with suspicious yellow eyes from his perch on the windowsill. "Milton, as in John Milton?" Liam asked, setting the food on her small dining table. "Paradise Lost is my guilty pleasure," Emma admitted, retrieving plates from her kitchen. "Though this Milton is far less verbose than his namesake. They fell into an easy rhythm, arranging the food and pouring wine as if they'd done it countless times before. For a brief moment, Emma could imagine a different reality, one where they were simply a couple enjoying a quiet dinner at home, with no complications of power dynamics, ethics committees, or newspaper articles. But reality couldn't be held at bay for long. As they settled at the table, Liam fixed her with a perceptive look. "Something's wrong," he said. "You've got that same expression you had when you were explaining why Hawthorne's view of sin was problematic." Despite everything, Emma laughed. "You're getting too good at reading me. I've had excellent tutoring." His smile faded as she remained serious. "Emma, what's going on?" She pushed the newspaper article across the table. "This came out yesterday." Liam scanned the headline, his expression darkening as he read. "This is ridiculous. They make it sound like—" "I know what they make it sound like," Emma interrupted. "And apparently the university administration is concerned. My department chair came to see me today." "What did she say?" That I need to disclose our arrangement formally, and that the ethics committee will review it. And in the meantime, I should put our relationship on pause. Her words. Liam set down his fork. Because I'm in talks with the university about funding. You never mentioned that, Emma said quietly. It wasn't relevant to us. He reached across the table for her hand. Emma, I can explain the situation to your provost. Make it clear that our arrangement has nothing to do with my discussions about the technology center. But doesn't it? You've incorporated my ideas into your educational platform. I sat in on your board meeting. The lines are already blurred. That's because you've become important to me in ways that go beyond our initial arrangement. Liam's voice had softened, his fingers intertwining with hers. Emma, these past weeks have been about much more than cultural education for me. The sincerity in his eyes made her chest tighten. For me too, she admitted. And that's part of the problem. If we were just consultant and client, this would be easier to explain. And what are we? The question hung between them, demanding an answer Emma wasn't sure she could give. Before she could form a response, her phone rang with her department chair's ringtone. I should take this, she said, reluctantly withdrawing her hand from his. Margaret's voice was tense. Emma, have you checked your email? The student newspaper just posted another piece, and it's worse. They're claiming Carter Innovations has committed to a $20 million technology center contingent on certain faculty appointments. What? That's absurd, Emma protested, her eyes darting to Liam, who was watching her with concern. Absurd or not, the provost is calling an emergency meeting of the ethics committee tomorrow morning at 9. He wants you there, and he's requesting all documentation of your arrangement with Mr. Carter. After ending the call, Emma relayed the conversation to Liam, watching his expression shift from concern to frustration. This is getting out of hand, he said, running a hand through his hair. 20 million contingent on faculty appointments? That's complete fabrication. Is the 20 million part true? Liam hesitated. We've discussed a contribution in that range, yes, but there were no conditions about personnel. Then why am I being called before the ethics committee? Emma paced her small living room, anxiety building. Liam, this could derail my tenure case. The committee could decide I violated conflict of interest policies. I won't let that happen. Liam stood, his expression resolute. I'll speak to the committee myself, explain that our personal connection developed independently from any university negotiations. Our personal connection, Emma repeated. And what exactly is that, Liam? What are we doing here? The directness of her question seemed to catch him off guard. For a moment, he looked uncharacteristically uncertain. I care about you, Emma, more than I expected to, more than is probably wise, given the circumstances. That's not really an answer, because I don't have a neat definition for what's happening between us. He moved closer, his voice softening. All I know is that being with you, talking, debating, even arguing, makes me feel more alive than I have in years. You challenge me, surprise me, make me see the world differently. And the consulting arrangement, the lessons. They were genuine at first. I really did want your perspective, but now... He reached for her hands, holding them gently. Now they feel like an excuse to see you. Emma felt the last of her professional detachment crumbling. She had tried so hard to maintain boundaries, to tell herself this was just an interesting consulting opportunity with a fascinating client. But the truth had been evident for weeks. Her feelings for Liam had grown far beyond professional interest. This is complicated, she whispered. Life usually is. His smile was gentle. But some complications are worth navigating. Their eyes locked, and Emma felt the shift in the atmosphere, the tension that had been building between them for weeks, reaching a breaking point. Liam's gaze dropped to her lips, a silent question in his expression. Before either of them could move, Emma's phone chimed with an incoming email. The sound broke the moment, reality intruding once again. It's from the provost, she said after checking the screen. The ethics committee wants all of our correspondence, emails, texts, contract details. Liam's expression turned thoughtful. Then perhaps we should give them exactly what they're asking for. What do you mean? Complete transparency. We provide every email, every text, the original consulting agreement. Let them see that there was nothing improper about our professional relationship and our personal relationship. We tell them the truth, that it developed naturally, separate from any business between me and the university. He squeezed her hands. Emma, we have nothing to hide. Our connection may be complicated, but it's genuine. Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that their situation could be explained so simply. But years in academia had taught her that perception often mattered more than truth, especially when power and money were involved. The optics are still problematic, she argued. You're a billionaire tech entrepreneur negotiating with the university while privately paying a faculty member for lessons. Can you honestly say you don't see how that looks? Of course I see it, but I also know the truth, that I met you by accident, was genuinely impressed by your mind, and wanted to learn from you. His voice took on an edge of frustration. Should I have walked away just because I happened to be in discussions with your employer? Maybe, or at least disclose the situation immediately. And what about now? Liam's question was quiet but direct. Should I walk away now, Emma? Is that what you want? The question struck at the heart of her conflict. The rational part of her knew that ending their connection, both professional and personal, would be the cleanest solution to her current predicament. Yet the thought of not seeing him again, of returning to her ordered but solitary routine, left her with an ache she couldn't ignore. No, she admitted finally, that's not what I want. Relief softened his features. Then we face this together. I'll contact the ethics committee tonight, request to attend the meeting, and provide full disclosure of our arrangement. And afterward? Emma asked. What happens to us if they rule the relationship is a conflict of interest? Then I withdraw from negotiations with the university. Liam's response was immediate and certain. There are plenty of schools that would welcome Carter Innovation's support. There's only one Professor Emma Davis. The simplicity of his answer and the sentiment behind it left Emma momentarily speechless. No one had ever chosen her over a $20 million deal before. You would do that? Without hesitation. Liam stepped closer, his hand gently touching her cheek. Emma, when I was trapped in that conference room with you, something unexpected happened. I found someone who sees beyond the wealthy tech founder to the person underneath. Someone who challenges my thinking instead of agreeing with whatever I say. That's rare in my world. It's worth protecting. The sincerity in his voice broke through the last of Emma's resistance. She leaned into his touch, her eyes meeting his. I suppose we should prepare for tomorrow's meeting, then. We will. But first, his gaze dropped to her lips again, and this time there was no interruption. The kiss was gentle at first, a tentative exploration that quickly deepened as months of tension and connection found their release. Emma felt herself responding with surprising intensity, her arms wrapping around his neck as his hands pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Liam rested his forehead against hers. For the record, he murmured, that was definitely not part of our consulting agreement. Emma laughed, the sound slightly shaky. Definitely not covered by the hourly rate. Good thing I'm prepared to negotiate new terms. His smile was warm, intimate in a way that made her heart race, starting with dinner actually getting eaten before it gets cold. As they returned to the table, the food now lukewarm but still delicious, Emma felt a curious mixture of anxiety and hope. Tomorrow would bring scrutiny and judgment from her colleagues, perhaps even consequences for her career. Yet sitting across from Liam, watching him attempt to win over her suspicious cat with scraps of chicken, she couldn't bring herself to regret the path that had led them here. Whatever happened with the ethics committee, whatever complications still lay ahead, one thing had become undeniably clear. The accidental night locked in a conference room had led to a connection worth fighting for. The next morning dawned grey and overcast. matching Emma's mood as she prepared for the ethics committee meeting. She chose her outfit carefully, a navy blazer and pencil skirt that projected professionalism without being intimidating, her academic armor, as she sometimes thought of it. Liam had left late the previous night after they'd prepared their strategy for the meeting. The goodbye at her door had been lingering and tender, with promises to meet outside the administration building at 8:30. Now, as she gathered her documentation, the consulting contract, email correspondence, session notes, Emma felt a churning mix of anxiety and determination. Her phone buzzed with a text from Liam. "On my way. Remember, we have nothing to hide. See you soon." The simple message steadied her nerves. Whatever happened today, she wouldn't face it alone. The campus was quiet as Emma made her way toward the administration building, most students still asleep on a Saturday morning. When she spotted Liam waiting at the bottom of the steps, her heart did an embarrassing little flip. He was dressed formally in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary, yet his expression when he saw her was one of simple pleasure. "Good morning," he said, offering her a coffee cup from the local cafe. "I remember you take it with almond milk and 1 sugar. Thank you." The thoughtful gesture touched her more than it should have. "Ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be to defend myself against fictional accusations." His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Emma, whatever happens in there, I want you to know that Professor Davis, Mr. Carter," the provost's assistant had appeared at the top of the stairs. "The committee is ready for you." Whatever Liam had been about to say remained unspoken as they followed the assistant into the imposing stone building. Emma felt Liam's hand briefly touch the small of her back, a gesture of reassurance that gave her strength as they walked into what felt uncomfortably like a trial. The committee room was arranged like a small courtroom, with a long table where 5 faculty members and administrators sat facing 2 solitary chairs. Emma recognized all the committee members, including Margaret Wilson and Provost Jenkins, neither of whom made eye contact as she and Liam took their seats. "Thank you for joining us on such short notice," the provost began, his tone formal. "This meeting has been called to address concerns about a potential conflict of interest between Professor Davis's position at the university and her private arrangement with Mr. Carter, whose company is currently in negotiations with Westlake." "Before we proceed," Liam interjected smoothly, "I'd like to address the false allegations published in the student newspaper. Carter Innovations' discussions with Westlake have never included any conditions regarding faculty appointments. Our interest in supporting the university's technology initiatives stands entirely on its own merits." The provost nodded. "We've received your formal statement to that effect, Mr. Carter. However, the committee's concern today is specifically about Professor Davis's undisclosed consulting arrangement with you." All eyes turned to Emma. She sat straighter, her academic training kicking in. "My consulting work with Mr. Carter began after our accidental meeting in Conference Room B last month. He expressed interest in broadening his understanding of humanities perspectives, and I agreed to provide cultural consultation. The arrangement was educational in nature and completely separate from any discussions between Mr. Carter and the university. Yet you failed to disclose this arrangement as required by university policy," Margaret pointed out. "That was an oversight on my part," Emma admitted. "I didn't realize Mr. Carter was in negotiations with the university when we established our agreement. When I learned of it yesterday, I immediately began preparing the disclosure forms." "Convenient timing," remarked Professor Harrington, a senior faculty member known for his rigidity about university protocols. "With respect," Liam cut in, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of authority, "Professor Davis has been nothing but professional in our arrangement. We've provided complete documentation of our work together, which clearly shows its educational focus. The committee has reviewed your materials," the provost acknowledged. "However, there's still the matter of the considerable compensation, $15,000 for what amounts to 5 evenings of cultural discussion." Emma felt her cheeks warm. Put that way, the arrangement did sound suspicious. I value expertise appropriately, Liam replied without apology. Professor Davis's insights have been instrumental in reshaping aspects of our educational platform development. The compensation reflects not only her time, but the significant value she's brought to my understanding of humanity's perspectives in technology. The questioning continued for nearly an hour, with committee members probing every aspect of their arrangement. Emma answered truthfully, explaining the content of their sessions, the educational sites they'd visited, and the evolution of their professional relationship. She carefully avoided mentioning how that relationship had begun to shift into personal territory, though several knowing glances suggested the committee had their suspicions. Finally, Professor Zhang, a soft-spoken member of the physics department, asked the question Emma had been dreading. Professor Davis, what is the current nature of your relationship with Mr. Carter? Is it strictly professional? The room fell silent. Emma felt Liam tense beside her, though he remained outwardly composed. This was the moment of truth, literally and figuratively. Our relationship began as a professional consulting arrangement, Emma stated carefully. Over the past weeks, we've developed a personal connection as well. However, that development is recent and has not influenced any aspect of Mr. Carter's business with the university. I see. Professor Zhang's expression remained neutral. And going forward? Going forward, Liam answered before Emma could speak. I intend to recuse myself from all negotiations with Westlake University regarding the Technology Center funding. His statement caused a ripple of surprise among the committee members. The provost leaned forward, clearly concerned. Mr. Carter, that's hardly necessary. With respect, Provost Jenkins, I believe it is. Liam's tone was firm. To avoid any appearance of impropriety, I'll be delegating all further discussions to my foundation's executive director. The funding commitment remains unchanged, but I personally will step back from the process. Emma stared at him, stunned by the declaration. He hadn't mentioned this part of the plan to her. And your arrangement with Professor Davis? Margaret asked. The formal consulting arrangement will end, effective immediately, Liam replied, then added with a hint of his usual confidence. What Professor Davis and I choose to do in our personal lives, however, is not subject to university oversight, provided all professional conflicts have been removed. The committee members exchanged glances. After a brief, whispered consultation, the provost addressed them again. Professor Davis, Mr. Carter, the committee will need to deliberate privately. We'll contact you with our determination by the end of the day. Thank you for your candor. Outside the building, Emma finally found her voice. You're recusing yourself from the negotiations. You didn't tell me you were planning that. It seemed like the cleanest solution, Liam replied as they walked across the quad, away from prying eyes and ears. This way, there's no possible conflict of interest going forward. But you've been personally involved in planning the center. Won't your foundation want your input? They'll have it. Unofficially, but officially, I'll be hands off. He stopped walking and turned to face her. Emma, I meant what I said in there. I value what's developing between us more than any business arrangement with Westlake. The gravity of his decision struck her fully. Liam, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. He reached for her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Just tell me if you think it's worth it. If we're worth it. Standing there in the middle of the campus she'd called home for years, Emma felt the weight of the choice before her. Pursuing a relationship with Liam would inevitably complicate her life. There would be gossip, scrutiny, perhaps even lingering suspicions about her professional integrity. The safe choice would be to end things now, return to her predictable routine, and protect the career she'd worked so hard to build. But then she thought about the night in the conference room, about their conversations that stretched for hours, about the way he looked at her as if her thoughts were treasures to be discovered. She thought about how, for the first time in years, someone had made her feel truly seen, not just as Professor Davis, but as Emma, with all her complexities and contradictions. Yes, she said finally. We're worth it. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise after a long night. Good. Because I wasn't looking forward to walking away from the best thing that's happened to me in years. Even better than your first billion? She teased. Infinitely better. He leaned down, kissing her lightly. Money can't debate Emerson's transcendentalism while spilling coffee on my Italian shoes. Emma laughed, feeling lighter despite the uncertainty that still hung over them. Whatever the ethics committee decided, whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, an unlikely pair brought together by a jammed door and a faulty security system. As they walked hand in hand across the campus, Emma felt a sense of possibility opening before her, a new chapter beginning in a story she hadn't known she was writing. The Professor and the Tech Millionaire. It sounded like the title of a romantic comedy no one would believe, yet here they were, making it real, one complicated step at a time. 3 months had passed since the ethics committee meeting, bringing changes that Emma could never have anticipated. The committee had ultimately accepted Liam's recusal from university negotiations, finding no evidence of impropriety in their prior arrangement. Emma had received a formal warning about disclosure requirements, but nothing that would damage her tenure prospects. What had changed most dramatically was her personal life. The carefully structured routine she had maintained for years had given way to something more fluid, more unpredictable, and infinitely more exciting. Tonight, she stood in her bedroom, staring at the contents of her closet with uncharacteristic uncertainty. Liam was flying in for the weekend, a pattern they'd established as they navigated their bi-coastal relationship. Usually they kept things casual. Take-out dinners, walks around campus, quiet evenings discussing books or watching films. But tonight was different. Carter Innovations Education Initiative Launch Gala, read the invitation on her dresser. A formal event at the Natural History Museum celebrating the educational platform that had incorporated so many of her ideas. Her first public appearance as Liam's, what exactly? Girlfriend seemed too juvenile a term for what had developed between them. Partner felt presumptuous after only 3 months. Whatever label applied, tonight would make their relationship official in the eyes of both the tech world and academia. The thought sent butterflies through Emma's stomach. Her phone buzzed with a text from Liam. Just landed. Can't wait to see you. Car will pick you up at 7. Emma smiled at the message, still not entirely accustomed to the way her heart jumped whenever he contacted her. At 42, she had believed herself well past the stage of giddy infatuation, yet here she was, feeling like one of her undergraduate students with a crush. She finally settled on a midnight blue gown she'd purchased for the occasion, simple but elegant, with a subtle shimmer that caught the light when she moved. It had cost more than she typically spent on clothes, but tonight felt important enough to justify the splurge. At precisely 7, a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. Emma gathered her wrap and clutch, took one final glance in the mirror, and headed downstairs. The driver opened the door, revealing Liam waiting inside, handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. His expression as she entered the car made the dress worth every penny. "You look stunning," he said, leaning in to kiss her softly. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, straightening his bow tie. "Ready for your big night? More ready now that you're here." He took her hand, his thumb tracing the now familiar pattern on her palm. "Fair warning, there will be press. Technology journalists, education reporters, possibly even some mainstream media, given the size of the initiative." Emma nodded, having anticipated this. "I've prepared my sound bites about the importance of humanities in technological development." "That's my professor," Liam said with a smile. "Always prepared for class." The museum was transformed for the evening, its grand hall illuminated with soft lighting that highlighted the architectural details while creating an atmosphere of sophisticated celebration. As their car pulled up to the entrance, Emma could see photographers lining the walkway, flashbulbs popping as attendees arrived. Last chance to back out, Liam murmured as the car stopped. We could ditch this whole thing and get pizza instead. The offer was tempting, but Emma shook her head. This is important to you, which makes it important to me. Besides, I'm curious to see how you operate in your natural habitat. Hardly natural, he replied dryly, but I appreciate the support. When they stepped onto the red carpet, the flashes intensified. Emma heard Liam's name called from multiple directions as photographers vied for his attention. He navigated the gauntlet with practiced ease, keeping her close to his side, his hand warm and steady against her back. "Mr. Carter, who's your date?" called one reporter. Liam paused, turning toward the voice. "This is Professor Emma Davis of Westlake University, whose insights have been instrumental in shaping the educational philosophy behind our new platform." "Are you two an item?" another shouted. Emma felt Liam's hand tighten slightly on her waist, a silent question. They had discussed how to handle such inquiries, but had left the final decision to the moment. "Professor Davis is brilliant, beautiful, and tolerates my endless questions about 19th century literature," Liam replied smoothly. "I'm fortunate that she's chosen to spend time with me both professionally and personally." He smiled down at Emma, then added, "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have guests to greet." Inside, the event was in full swing. Tech executives mingled with educators, politicians, and celebrities, all drawn by the promise of Carter Innovation's newest venture and its charismatic founder. Emma recognized several university presidents, including Westlake's, who nodded to her with slightly raised eyebrows. "Liam!" A tall woman in a striking red gown approached them, air-kissing Liam's cheek before turning curious eyes to Emma. "You must be the professor I've heard so much about." "Emma, this is Vanessa Mercer, our chief marketing officer," Liam explained. "Vanessa, Professor Emma Davis." "The humanities expert," Vanessa said, appraising Emma with interest. "Your influence is all over this project." "I was skeptical when Liam insisted on rebuilding half our platform based on your feedback, but the results have been remarkable." "I merely offered perspective," Emma replied modestly. "Your team did the heavy lifting." "Don't let her downplay her contribution," Liam interjected. "Emma fundamentally changed how we approached learning engagement. The human connection aspects that early users love most, all her influence." Vanessa's smile took on a knowing quality. "Well, she certainly seems to have influenced you, Liam. I haven't seen you this animated about a project or a person in years." Before Emma could process this observation, they were approached by more executives, each eager to meet the woman who had apparently captured both their CEO's professional interest and his personal attention. Emma fielded questions about her academic background, her views on technology and education, and more subtly, her relationship with Liam. Throughout it all, Liam remained attentive, his pride evident whenever he introduced her to another colleague. It was a side of him Emma hadn't fully witnessed before. Liam in his element as a business leader, commanding respect while maintaining the charismatic warmth that had drawn her to him from the beginning. "You're a hit," he murmured, as they finally found a moment alone near one of the exhibit displays. "My board is already plotting to steal you from academia." "I'm quite happy with my tweed jacket and book-filled office, thank you," Emma replied, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. "No interest in joining the corporate dark side. We have much better coffee. And far more meetings from what I've observed." She sipped her champagne, watching the crowd. "Besides, someone needs to ensure the next generation understands there's more to life than algorithms." "Speaking of the next generation," Liam nodded toward a group of young people entering the hall. "The scholarship students are here." Emma followed his gaze to where 20 teenagers in formal attire were being ushered in, their expressions ranging from nervous to awestruck. Part of the evening's purpose was to announce Carter Innovation's scholarship program for underprivileged students interested in education technology. "They look terrified," she observed. "Wouldn't you be?" Most of them have never been to an event like this. Liam's expression softened. I remember my first fancy tech function. I wore a rented tux that was 2 sizes too big and spent the whole night afraid I'd say something that would reveal I didn't belong. And now you host these events. Life takes unexpected turns. He squeezed her hand. Case in point. If that conference room door hadn't jammed, I'd never have discovered your passion for Thoreau or your impressive ability to sleep in uncomfortable chairs. Emma laughed, remembering their first night together. Or your secret talent for turning stale sandwiches into a midnight feast. We should check on those students, Liam said, finishing his champagne. Make sure they know they belong here, just as much as anyone. They made their way to the group, where Liam introduced himself without ceremony, immediately putting the teenagers at ease with his genuine interest in their studies and aspirations. Emma watched in admiration as he connected with each student personally, sharing stories of his own humble beginnings and encouraging their ambitions. When he introduced Emma as the professor who keeps me honest about the human side of technology, she found herself drawn into conversations about literature, history, and the role of arts in education. Several of the students expressed interest in humanities alongside their technical studies, and Emma provided enthusiastic encouragement. You're good with them, Liam commented later as they made their way toward the stage for his speech. You've got that professor magic, making people feel both challenged and supported at the same time. It's not magic, it's just paying attention to what lights them up. She straightened his already perfect bow tie. Ready for your big moment? Liam nodded, but there was a tightness around his eyes that hadn't been there before. There's something I need to tell you before I go up there. Something about the announcement that I haven't shared with you yet. A flicker of unease passed through Emma. That sounds ominous. It's not, I promise. It's just... He was interrupted by his assistant, signaling that it was time for him to take the stage. I'll explain after. Just know that everything I'm about to announce comes from the right place. Before Emma could press for clarification, Liam was being introduced to enthusiastic applause. She found her place in the front row, watching as he transformed into the confident public speaker she'd seen in videos but rarely witnessed in person. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began, his voice carrying effortlessly through the hall. 3 years ago, when we first conceived of this educational platform, our goals were straightforward. Create technology that makes learning more accessible, more engaging, and more effective. He paused, scanning the audience. But something happened along the way. I met someone who challenged me to think beyond effectiveness to meaning, beyond engagement to connection, beyond accessibility to purpose. His eyes found Emma's, and the intensity of his gaze sent a warmth spreading through her chest. This project evolved because one professor was brave enough to tell a tech CEO that he was missing the point. Scattered laughter rippled through the audience. She reminded me that education isn't just about transferring information, it's about transformation. It's about becoming more fully human through our engagement with ideas, with culture, and with each other. Liam went on to outline the platform's features, its potential impact on educational access globally, and the scholarship program for promising students from underserved communities. As he spoke, Emma felt a strange mixture of pride and discomfort. While she was moved by his acknowledgement of her influence, she was also acutely aware of the many eyes now turning curiously in her direction. Which brings me to our final announcement of the evening, Liam continued. Carter Innovations is establishing the Humanities in Technology Initiative, a $20 million endowment dedicated to supporting research and teaching that bridges technological innovation and humanistic inquiry. Emma's breath caught. This was what he'd wanted to tell her. The initiative will fund faculty research, curriculum development, and student projects at 20 universities nationwide, including $5 million specifically allocated to Westlake University for the creation of a Center for Humanities and Technology under the guidance of Professor Emma Davis. The audience erupted in applause, but Emma sat frozen in her seat, stunned by the announcement. A center under her guidance. This was the first she'd heard of it. Professor Davis embodies the kind of cross-disciplinary thinking we need in today's educational landscape, Liam continued, seemingly oblivious to her shock. Her vision of a technology informed by human stories, ethical considerations, and cultural understanding will shape not just this center, but our company's approach to educational innovation for years to come. More applause followed as Liam concluded his speech and stepped down from the stage. Emma composed her expression as he made his way back to her, accepting congratulations from attendees as he passed. "Surprised?" he asked when he reached her, his eyes bright with excitement. "That's one word for it," Emma replied, keeping her voice low. "Liam, you just announced a center with me at the helm without discussing it with me first." His smile faltered. "I wanted it to be a surprise. The university president has already approved the concept, contingent on your acceptance, of course. And it didn't occur to you that I might want input on a major career decision? Or that publicly announcing it puts enormous pressure on me to accept?" Realization dawned in his eyes. "I didn't think of it that way. I just thought you'd be excited about the opportunity." "I might have been, had I been consulted rather than informed, along with 500 strangers." Emma struggled to keep her tone even. "Liam, you can't make unilateral decisions about my professional life, even if they come with good intentions and generous funding." The hurt in his expression was evident, but before he could respond, they were surrounded by well-wishers eager to congratulate both of them. Emma plastered on a smile and accepted the compliments graciously, years of academic politics having taught her to maintain composure in uncomfortable situations. For the next hour, they moved through the room separately, Emma fielding questions about the new center while trying to formulate diplomatic responses that wouldn't commit her to anything. Meanwhile, Liam was deep in conversation with university administrators and potential partners, occasionally glancing in her direction with a mixture of confusion and concern. By the time they finally reunited near the coat check, the tension between them was palpable. "Your car is waiting whenever you're ready," Liam said quietly. "Unless you'd prefer to take a separate one." Emma sighed, suddenly tired. "Don't be ridiculous. We're going to the same place." The ride back to her apartment was silent, each of them looking out opposite windows. Emma could feel the evening's earlier warmth dissipating, replaced by a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. When they arrived, Liam followed her upstairs without asking, his expression set in lines of determination. As soon as her apartment door closed behind them, he spoke. "I apologize. I should have discussed the center with you first." "Yes, you should have." Emma kicked off her heels, the glamour of the evening evaporating. "Liam, do you understand why this upsets me? Because I made an assumption about what you'd want? Because you made a decision about my career without consulting me, then put me in a position where refusing would make me look ungrateful and difficult." She paced her living room, Milton watching warily from his perch. "It's exactly the kind of power imbalance I've been trying to navigate since we started seeing each other." Liam ran a hand through his hair, disheveling its perfect styling. "That's not how I meant it at all. I wanted to create something meaningful that would recognize your brilliance and give you the platform you deserve. But that's just it. You wanted to create it. You wanted to give me a platform." Emma stopped pacing, facing him directly. "Those are your verbs, your actions. Where was my agency in this plan?" He faltered, genuinely perplexed. "I thought I was supporting your work, your vision. By making decisions for me, by announcing my career move to a room full of strangers." Emma's frustration was giving way to a deeper hurt. "Liam, relationships, especially between people with different levels of power and influence, require conversation, not proclamation." Understanding finally dawned in his expression. "I'm used to making executive decisions, to surprising people with opportunities they hadn't considered. I'm not one of your employees or a charity case for your foundation. I never thought you were, he protested. Emma, I admire you. Your mind, your principles, your unwavering commitment to what matters. I wanted to give you resources to expand that influence. But you did it in a way that undermined the very autonomy you claim to admire. Emma sat heavily on her sofa, suddenly exhausted. This is the challenge when worlds like ours collide. You're accustomed to your resources solving problems, creating opportunities. I'm accustomed to careful negotiation of limited resources, to institutional constraints, to incremental progress. Liam sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. I never meant to overstep. I got caught up in the vision of what we could build together and forgot to make sure we were building it together from the start. The genuine regret in his voice softened Emma's anger. This wasn't malice or deliberate control. It was the collision of different worlds, different approaches to power and possibility. The center itself isn't a bad idea, she admitted. In fact, it's aligned with much of what I've been advocating for years. But the process matters, Liam. How we get there is as important as where we're going. I'm beginning to understand that. He reached for her hand tentatively. Can we start over on this? Pretend I never made that announcement and instead properly ask for your thoughts on creating such a center. Despite herself, Emma felt a smile tugging at her lips. That would be difficult given that the president of my university was in the audience and has already texted me his congratulations. Liam winced. Too late for a do-over then. For the announcement, yes, but not too late for me to have real input on what this center becomes, if I decide to accept the position at all. You're considering not accepting. He looked genuinely surprised. Of course I am. It's a major commitment that would significantly alter my career trajectory. Emma turned to face him fully. Liam, I need to know that if we continue this relationship, you'll respect my independence, professionally and personally. That you'll consult me before making decisions that affect my life, no matter how well-intentioned. I promise. His expression was solemn. No more unilateral decisions, no matter how brilliant I think they are. And no using your financial resources to try to solve problems in our relationship. He raised an eyebrow. Does that mean I can't send you first editions of Emerson as apology gifts? That, Emma replied, finally allowing herself to smile, would be an acceptable exception to the rule. The tension between them began to dissolve as Liam gently pulled her closer. I really am sorry. I was trying to do something meaningful for you, but I went about it all wrong. I know. Emma rested her head against his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. And I appreciate the intention, even while disagreeing with the execution. So where does this leave us? And the center? Emma considered the question seriously. The center needs careful thought. As for us, she looked up at him, seeing the mixture of hope and uncertainty in his eyes. We're learning how to navigate this relationship between different worlds. Tonight was a misstep, but one we can learn from. Liam nodded, relief evident in his expression. I'm willing to learn, to do better. That's all anyone can ask. Emma leaned up and kissed him softly, feeling the day's tension finally release its hold. Now, I believe you mentioned something about ditching the gala for pizza earlier? I did. His smile returned, warm and genuine, though I assumed that option expired once we actually attended the gala. It's never too late for pizza, Emma declared, already reaching for her phone. And I think we both could use a reset on this evening. As they changed out of their formal wear into more comfortable clothes, Emma reflected on the evening's events. The announcement had been presumptuous, even problematic in its execution. Yet the center itself represented an opportunity to shape technological education in ways she'd advocated for years. With proper boundaries and clear communication, perhaps their personal relationship and professional collaboration could coexist without one overwhelming the other. Later, as they sat on her living room floor, sharing pizza and dissecting the evening's more amusing moments, Emma felt the rightness of them together, despite their differences. Liam was listening attentively as she outlined her initial thoughts for the center, asking questions rather than making pronouncements, clearly determined to correct his earlier mistake. "You know," he said during a lull in the conversation, "when I was locked in that conference room with you months ago, I never imagined we'd end up here, eating pizza in sweatpants after fighting at a black tie gala," Emma quipped. "Building something together, personally and professionally, despite coming from such different worlds." His expression grew more serious. "I've dated people who wanted my money and people who resented it. You're the first person who's made me feel seen beyond it. And you're the first person who's made me feel that my academic perspective has value outside university walls." Emma set down her pizza slice, reaching for his hand. "We'll figure this out, Liam. The balance between your world and mine. I'm counting on it." He squeezed her hand. "Because despite tonight's misstep, I'm pretty sure I'm falling in love with you, Professor Davis." The words hung in the air between them, both a declaration and a question. Emma felt her heart race, but not with anxiety this time, with recognition of a truth she'd been avoiding naming. "That's fortunate," she replied softly, "because I'm pretty sure I'm already there, Mr. Carter." His smile as he pulled her close was worth every complication, every adjustment, every negotiation between their different worlds. Whatever challenges lay ahead, and there would be many, they would face them together, learning from each misstep, growing stronger with each resolution. The professor and the tech millionaire. Still an unlikely pair, still figuring out the boundaries and bridges between their worlds, but now with a deeper understanding that their differences, handled with respect and communication, might be their greatest strength rather than an insurmountable obstacle. 1 year to the day after getting locked in Conference Room B, Emma and Liam stood in the same space, now transformed. What had once been a standard university meeting room was now the centerpiece of the newly established Center for Humanities and Technology, her center. "Not exactly how I remember it," Liam commented, taking in the sleek furnishings, digital displays, and the wall of windows that had been expanded to offer an even more impressive view of the campus. "The coffee machine is much better, for one thing," Emma replied, running her hand along the polished conference table, "less likely to create career-altering spills." The past year had been a whirlwind of changes. After careful negotiation with both the university and Liam, Emma had accepted the position as the center's director, but on her own terms. She maintained her faculty status, continued teaching one course per semester, and ensured the center's governance included robust faculty input rather than donor control. For his part, Liam had kept his promise to respect her professional autonomy, stepping back to let her shape the center according to her vision while providing the resources she needed. Their personal relationship had deepened as they navigated the challenges of their different worlds and a bi-coastal romance that frequently put thousands of miles between them. "Ready for the ribbon cutting?" Emma asked, checking her watch. The official opening ceremony would begin in 30 minutes, with university officials, Carter Innovation executives, and local media in attendance. "Almost." Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I wanted to give you this before everyone arrives." Emma accepted the box with a curious smile. Inside was an antique key on a silver chain. "It's from the old manual locks they removed during renovation," Liam explained. "I had it preserved as a reminder of how this all began. With us getting stuck together," Emma said, lifting the necklace. "Best security malfunction of my life." He helped her fasten it around her neck, "though I'm hoping we don't have to repeat the experience to move to the next stage of our relationship." There was something in his tone that made Emma look up sharply. "And what stage would that be?" Instead of answering directly, Liam took her hands in his. "This past year has taught me more than all my years in tech. I've learned about patience, about listening before acting, about the value of perspectives different from my own. His eyes held hers intently. Most importantly, I've learned that some connections are worth reorganizing your entire life around. Emma's heart began to race as Liam lowered himself to one knee, still holding her hands. Emma Davis, you challenge me, ground me, and make me better every day. Would you consider a more permanent arrangement than our current consulting agreement? From his pocket, he produced a second, smaller box. Will you marry me? The ring inside was perfect. A vintage setting with a central diamond flanked by sapphires that matched the blue of her eyes. Not ostentatious, despite what he could afford, but thoughtfully selected to suit her taste and style. You didn't announce this one to a room full of strangers first, Emma observed, her voice unsteady with emotion. That's progress. I'm learning, Liam replied with a hopeful smile. Is that a yes? Emma pulled him to his feet. Yes, though I have conditions. I would expect nothing less, Professor. I keep my name professionally. We maintain separate residences when needed for work. And you promise never to surprise me with any more career-changing announcements without prior consultation. Agreed on all counts. His smile widened. Any more terms before we seal this contract? Emma pretended to consider. Just one. You have to kiss me right now, in the exact spot where you first called me out for making Thoreau sound interesting. That, Liam said, drawing her close, is the easiest condition you've ever imposed. As their lips met, Emma heard the distant sounds of guests arriving for the ceremony. Soon, they would be surrounded by colleagues, officials, and media, the private moment giving way to public celebration. But for now, in this room where their story had begun, they had come full circle, from accidental confinement to deliberate commitment, from professional wariness to profound connection. When they finally separated, Liam kept her close. I suppose we should join the others before someone comes looking for us. Probably wise, Emma agreed, straightening his tie affectionately. Though part of me wishes that door would jam again, just for old time's sake. No need for faulty locks this time. Liam kissed her once more, briefly but tenderly. I'm exactly where I want to be, and I'm not going anywhere. Hand in hand, they walked out to meet their guests, leaving Conference Room B behind, but carrying its legacy forward. The unexpected beginning of a story neither could have written alone, but that they would continue crafting together, one chapter at a time. As the ribbon was cut and applause filled the air, Emma caught Liam's eye across the crowd. His expression held the same warmth and intelligence that had first drawn her to him, now deepened by a year of shared experiences, challenges overcome, and boundaries respectfully navigated. The professor and the tech millionaire, still learning from each other, still building bridges between their worlds, and now embarking on their greatest collaboration yet.